What's up, guys? We're back with more picks and predictions. This weekend we got UFC in China. It's main evented by Petr versus Deiveson Figueiredo. That's a pretty important fight in the bantamweight division. We got a bunch of Southeast Asian fighters on this card. Let's jump into our recap from UFC 309 and then hop into the predictions for this weekend. All right, so to recap our bets from UFC 309, that was our first week in 7 weeks where we were negative. To be honest, we were basically at the break-even point. We're only down 0.06 units, so not down really much at all. We had 7 straight profitable weeks before this and about 20 units in profit in those 7 weeks. So really running hot on premium still, but had basically a break-even week. I'll go through the bets we had. So we had 6 bets. Marcus McGee straight, that one hit. We had a bet on Damon Jackson and Bo Nickel in a 2-leg. I was kind of regretting the Damon Jackson pick later throughout the week, but we did have a bunch of positive EVs, so I decided to hold on to that line. Ended up losing that because he got submitted by Jim Miller. We had Jake Paul plus John Jones, which were pretty free. Both legs were pretty free. Then we had a 2-leg on Creedy Silva and Ruffy minus 3.5. Both those legs missed. A lot of that was banking on Ruffy to get the knockout, which he just wasn't able to do on Yontop. And then, the Creedy Silva decision, I thought it could have gone either way. I thought maybe Creedy had it, but, it was too close of a fight to really blame that as a robbery. So lost that one. And then the Onama fight looked scary early on. He ended up coming through in the second and third round. And Oban Elliott had a pretty good performance as well. That one hit. And then we had Ruffy's just money line straight up. And then we had Denise versus Tybura under 2.5. So all those bets hit. So we had basically 4 out of 6 of our bets hit. We did hit more than we lost. It's just the fact that the units were in the wrong place. Definitely too many units on that Damon Jackson line. And then the Creedy Silva and Ruffy minus 3.5. Ruffy not getting the knockout is pretty disappointing. And then the Creedy Silva line, I guess, it was just never actually worth minus 300. But yeah, down 0.06 units. Not bad at all. Basically hit the break even. And let's move on to the picks and predictions for this weekend. All right, first fight on the card this weekend in Macau. We have Maheshate versus Nikolas Motta. Now, I see this fight staying on the feet for all 3 rounds, basically. I wasn't really impressed with Maheshate's performance over Gabriel Benitez in their last fight. He did get the win, but he was getting hit a lot and ended up winning by just keeping the pressure and throwing a lot more volume, just continuously moving forward. I don't know if that'll actually work with Nikolas Motta. Both these guys do have knockout power. We've seen Motta get a bunch of knockouts in his career. We've also seen Maheshate get a bunch of finishes in his career as well. But I think overall that Nikolas Motta is going to be the cleaner fighter on the feet here. If Maheshate does start losing a clean fight and tries to make it ugly like he did last time against Gabriel Benitez, and he just tries to push forward quite a bit, enter the pocket, just get in close range and eat a bunch of shots, I don't think he's going to be able to do that with Motta. I just don't think he'll be able to eat the shots like he did with Gabriel Benitez. Motta has different type of power, especially in comparison to his last opponent. So, the one advantage I do give Maheshate is that he's obviously younger, and he probably does have the slightly better chin in this fight. We've seen Motta kind of get hurt in fights before. But I think that they both have knockout power. I think Motta's going to be cleaner, and I think that if Maheshate does his big forward pressure movements to try to get a win on the decisions, just by out voluming someone like Nikolas Motta, I think he's going to get caught with too many power shots, and I think he's probably going to go down. So both these guys are live for the finish. I'm going to pick Nikolas Motta here. We're going to kick off the card with an underdog. I think he's currently sitting at about plus 160, so decent dog to start off the card. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. All right, next fight on the card we have Long Xiao versus Quang Li. This is a pretty close fight. I'm surprised at how the line's moving here. So Quang Li actually opened as a minus 170 favorite in this fight. He's now the underdog in this matchup. So it's pretty interesting line movement when it comes to this matchup. And I think this is a pretty close fight. I think that I'm going to take Long Xiao to win. And I think it just comes down to the fact that he's going to be the fighter with more output, more tenacity, more going on in the minutes that the fight does last. I think that it probably does go the distance, and he does pick it up on the scorecards. Now, Long Xiao is one of those fighters that's going to do a bunch of high-pressure wrestling. Even if he's not getting the takedowns, he's just going to keep trying. He's going to keep doing something, keep having output. And then with Quang Li, I think that's just going to make it pretty unsettling. It's going to come down to who I think is moving forward, because I think the fight's going to be pretty close. I think on the feet, Quang Li will probably get the better of Long Xiao, but I don't think Long Xiao is going to give him the space for it to really matter. And then also Long Xiao is the hometown kid here. I think the more output going to the scorecards in China, I think it makes sense for Long Xiao to pick up the decision here. So Long Xiao is going to be the pick, but I think this is a super close fight. Also, ton of line movement here. So interesting on how you play this. Long Xiao is now a minus 130 favorite when Quang Li was a minus 170 favorite when the line opened. So something to keep in mind. Next fight on the card, we have Loner Kavanagh versus Jose Ochoa. This is going to be a really fun fight to watch. Kavanagh has had a bunch of success in K1 kickboxing. You'll notice that he has really good striking, and his hand speed is fucking crazy. If you go watch his Contender Series knockout, the hook he threw to knock his opponent out was actually super fast. You could barely see it. and he's also pretty well-rounded. We've seen him have some good takedowns, some decent wrestling in fights as well. So he is comfortable if the fight does go to the ground. And then on the Jose Ochoa side, he's a shoot box fighter. His head coach is Diego Lima, and you do have Charles Oliveira in his corner from time to time. So you know that he's going to be a pretty dangerous fighter. He's got a really good kicking game, but I think that kicking game does expose him to being countered a lot, at least up top. And, with Kavanagh's hand speed, I just think that those counters are going to be there, and Kavanagh's definitely going to take advantage of those scenarios on the feet, especially with his kickboxing background. Now, I think for Ochoa, the best path to victory is probably through his jiu-jitsu, but he's going to be dangerous everywhere, along with Kavanagh. Both these guys are live for finishes. I don't really know if the line is justified on Kavanagh at minus 300, but due to the speed and due to the more technical kickboxing, I'm going to take Kavanagh to win, but I'm going to say that Ochoa is dangerous everywhere, and, he's going to be one of those shoot box type of fighters. So I'd be wary on the line, but Kavanagh will be the pick. So the next fight is Hernandez versus Tumendemberel, and this is a pretty interesting one to break down. Tumendemberel's 8-0. He's a pretty wild fighter. I didn't watch too much tape on him, but I have seen enough where I've seen him get an early finish, and I've seen one of his fights just go later on, him having some adversity. So he is game, and he's just a really wild fighter. Someone like Carlos Hernandez on the other side is going to be probably the more technical fighter in all senses probably, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think that Tumendemberel is going to want to make this fight dirty and just wild. I don't know if Carlos Hernandez has enough skill over Tumendemberel in order to just fully dictate the pace of the fight. I think if Tumendemberel goes all out and dictates the pace his way, I don't know if Hernandez is going to be able to kind of control the momentum of the fight, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go with Tumendemberel. He is a dog. I think he's a plus 170 dog right now, and I mean, it makes sense. Carlos Hernandez is probably the better fighter, like I said, on the books. But I just think that Tumendemberel is going to make it wild. We've seen him, land with big power, and we've also seen Hernandez get knocked out. So I'm going to go with Tumendemberel, but to be honest, this is just going to be a fun fight. This guy looks like a pretty sick guy, and we're going to see what happens. Next up, we have Xiaocan Feng versus Ming. This is going to be a pretty straightforward breakdown. I'm going to go with Xiaocan Feng to get this done. She's a pretty high-pressure wrestler. She's great at top control once she does get you down, and her takedowns are really good as well. So, to be honest, I don't see Ming stopping Feng's takedowns in this fight. I think that Feng's going to go out there, do what she needs to do, get 3 takedowns in 3 rounds, and just beat her up on the ground. That's pretty much how I see this fight going. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. The only one concern I do have with a fighter like Xiaocan Feng is just the fact that she is 22. Obviously, the younger fighter is normally a good thing, but when they're really young, it could be like a Joshua Van type of scenario where they're just not grown enough yet, where like Ming is 30. So I think that, Feng is just really young at 22. But at the end of the day, I do see her getting the takedowns, getting the victory. I am pretty confident that Xiaocan Feng can get it done. Like I said, only real, scare here is the age. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Kiru Sohata versus Donghoon Choi. I'm going to go with Sohata to win this fight. Mostly because of his reach advantage. He got about a 7-inch reach advantage in this matchup. He is also a lengthy, high-volume striker, so I think that's a pretty good pairing, being that lengthy and also having the volume. I think he's just be able to pepper Donghoon Choi in this fight. But once again, these are pretty unknown fighters, and I'm not confident at all in something like this. Thing betting on this would be pretty decent, so I have no action on this, letting you know that. But I'm going to pick Sohata to win, I think mostly because of the length. If Choi was to go get this done, I think a lot of that would depend on maybe him getting some takedowns. I still think Sohata should be able to get it done, though. It's funny because Tapology is picking Choi at 86%, which is pretty interesting to me. Sohata was actually an underdog, but seems like a bunch of money has come onto him, and now there's a pick and fight. So if you are looking on the betting line, it seems like a lot of smart money is going on the Sohata side, but it seems like the public is picking Choi. That's actually normally pretty good. You kind of follow the smart money in that type of scenario, generally. But like I said, I'm not confident enough to put money on this fight. But yeah, Sohata will be the pick. Going up the card, we have Sung Young Yu versus Balgyn Jenisuly. I hope I'm not butchering a bunch of names. And I also think that on DraftKings, this guy's a completely different name than what he does on Tapology. I'm just going to go with the Tapology name here, which is Balgyn Jenisuly. And yeah, I'm going to lean Balgyn to win this fight. Now, this is going to be a classic striker versus grappler matchup. Sung Young Yu is going to be the grappler in this matchup. He's going to want to get this fight to the ground. And Balgyn does have good striking. He does mix it up really well. And he's got a 5-inch reach advantage on top of that. So I'm going to lean Balgyn to win this fight. He is an underdog in this matchup. Sung Young Yu is currently a minus 148 favorite. So slight favorite on the Sung Young Yu side. I can kind of get it if you want to lean the wrestlers in a matchup like this. But One, Balgyn is the hometown guy. He is from China, so I think he was from South Korea. Not sure how much that's going to play a role in the judging this weekend. We know how it does in other countries, but to be honest, I'm not sure how that's going to play a role in China. It's going to be interesting, but I also think that Balgyn does mix up his striking really well. So if Song Yu does shoot some desperate takedowns, which I have seen him do, I think one, that's going to look bad on the scorecards, and two, it's going to allow Balgyn to throw a lot of knees, elbows, stuff like that. So I'm going to lean Balgyn to win this fight. He is a dog. Seems like Tapology is also picking Balgyn to win this fight, which is interesting. So he's a public dog, and we're going to see what happens, but I'm going to lean Balgyn. All right, up the card, we have Mingyang Zhang versus Ozzy Diaz at light heavyweight. This is the main card opener for this weekend, and I'm going to go with Mingyang Zhang to get this done. I think that, both these guys are kind of just going to go slug it out. Mingyang Zhang does have the power advantage. I also think he has a speed advantage. I just think he's going to land first. He's going to land hard. Ozzy Diaz is 9-2. Those two losses are both coming by knockout. One of them was to Joe Pyfer, and the other one was to someone on the regional scene named Santiago Diaz. So on the contender series, he fought Joe Pyfer. He did get knocked out. I mean, Joe Pyfer was, just knocking everyone out until he did get fraud checked real quick. But, Mingyang Zhang, I think, is going to come in with that power to knock him out, and he's going to be faster. I think he's going to land. So I'm going to lean Zhang to win this fight, and let's move on to the next one. All right, now, next fight on the card, we have a pretty banger fight. We have Volkan Ozdemir versus Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg to win this fight. I am pretty high on him, but I don't think that Volkan Ozdemir is a walk in the park. I'm a pretty big fan of Volkan Ozdemir. So I think this is going to be a pretty gangster matchup. I think that we're going to have a fun fight here. And if you go look at Volkan Ozdemir, he's one of those people where you look at his losses and they tell you a lot about who he is as a fighter. Volkan Ozdemir's losses are just super, super quality. His losses in the light heavyweight division were Krylov, Magomed Ankalaev, Yuri Prohaska. His other losses were Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith, and Daniel Cormier. So if you go look at those losses, he also did fight Daniel Cormier for the belt back in 2018. So these are just like super high quality losses. He beats the people he's supposed to beat. Now, you basically have to tell yourself, is Ulberg in the conversation with those people that we just named? I think that Ulberg is part of that top 5 of the light heavyweight division if he wants to be. I think he can definitely get there. And because of that, I'm going to pick Ulberg. I think that he does have the skills. On the feet, he's going to be much faster. Both these guys, can knock each other out. Obviously, they both have good power. Ozdemir is a good boxer too, but we've seen his chin get tested. We know Ulberg is fast. We know Ulberg has all the power in the world. So I'm going to say Ulberg can probably find the chin here in this matchup. Also, if Ozdemir does start losing on the feet, maybe some grappling is a path for him, but we're going to have to think that Ulberg knows that that's going to be like a likely path if Ulberg starts piecing him up on the feet. But I don't think it's going to be easy to piece up Ozdemir on the feet. I think Ozdemir will be super game. So it's going to be a close fight. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the line, but I do think that Ulberg gets it done. I do think Ulberg can be in those like class of fighters that I just named that Ozdemir tends to lose to. So we're going to go with Ulberg, and yeah, let's move on to the next one. All right, next fight on the card. We're going to make this one quick. It's Quang versus Gabriela Fernandez. We're going to go with Quang. She's a massive, massive favorite on the card, about -800, and she just looked amazing in her UFC debut earlier this year. She ended up knocking out Victoria Leonardo in a minute in round 1, and she's a very talented, very successful kickboxer. She did fight Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing in 2015 and beat her, so that's the kind of level of kickboxing she does have. And then now she's transformed into MMA, and I don't see Gabriela Fernandez being able to take her down. Realistically, that's going to be the path to beat Quang. You have to take her down. Quang has to know that that's what's coming, and I think if Gabriela Fernandez does fuck around on the feet against Quang, there's no way that Quang loses to her. So Quang is going to be the pick. She's -800. Everyone's on her. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. All right, up the card, we have a pretty close matchup. We have Song Kenan versus Muslim Salikhov. This is going to be a really close fight in my opinion. Now, Muslim Salikhov is 40 years old, and the way I see this fight breaking down is that Salikhov is probably the more cleaner fighter. He's going to mix it up a lot better than Song Kenan. So don't think of Salikhov as one of those people that just by reading his name, you're like, oh, this guy's going to spam a bunch of takedowns. No, he does have good wrestling, but he will mix it up. He will do good work on the feet as well. So I see Salikhov doing that while I see kind of, Song Kenan's going to want to keep this on the feet. Obviously, he's going to be faster. He's going to have a little bit more power, but he's not going to be the better, overall fighter, in my opinion. I think that will be Salikhov. I'm going to still pick Song Kenan to win this fight just of the fact that he's going to be 6 years younger. And on top of being 6 years younger, he's just going to be like faster, more powerful, everything that comes with being younger. And I think that's probably going to get him a close decision in China. I'm going to lean towards, the hometown people in these close fights, in my opinion. I think I'm going to just keep that going. That's kind of a principle that, you probably want to do generally wherever the UFC goes. But I think it'd be a close decision. I'm going to lean towards the hometown guy, Xiaocan here. I think that, he can have the bigger moments potentially, but I do see Salikov mixing up well, probably putting on a pretty good mixed martial arts performance. So consider this to be a pretty close fight. If you're on the Song side, you're probably hoping for Salikov to look just quite a bit slower as he gets older. That's probably what you're going to want to see. So, yeah, I'm going to lean Xiaocan, but I think it's going to be a pretty close fight, probably a split decision. And, yeah, let's move on. All right, now, in our co-main event, we have Xiaonan versus Tabitha Ricci. This is a pretty good fight. I think that I'm going to take Xiaonan to win this fight, but the way I see this fight going is also probably a close decision. Now, we saw Tabitha Ricci's last performance against Angela Hill. I'm expecting a very similar performance here against Xiaonan, where it's going to be a lot of just pressure. I mean, we know that Tabitha Ricci is going to want the fight to the ground, but we also know that she doesn't have the best takedowns. So getting the fight to the ground is hard. If this fight does, for some reason, end up on the ground, I think that Tabitha Ricci will be all over Xiaonan, but I think that Xiaonan is going to be able to keep this fight standing for the most part. And if that's the case, I think that the success Tabitha Ricci's found on the feet has not been from, actually just becoming better at striking, but she kind of just blazes forward, just blitzes in, eats a bunch, but just tries to throw more than she eats and kind of, win it on the scorecards, just by like out-voluming her opponent on the feet. I think that works with a fighter like Angela Hill. I mean, clearly it did. I actually had Ricci beating Hill, but I don't think that's going to work against Xiaonan. I think she's going to be too technical. She's going to be too sharp, too accurate as a striker, and I think she's going to be really quick. So I don't see Xiaonan kind of just getting blitzed as easy as Angela Hill was. I think that, if Tabitha Ricci does start doing that, Xiaonan will make the adjustments on the feet to kind of, step back, get some good strikes off. And I just think she's like a better striker where you just can't pull that game plan off as easily. So I'm going to lean Xiaonan to win this fight. I think she does keep it standing. I think she's a better striker on the feet, and she's going to kind of see through Tabitha Ricci's game plan of just trying to make it ugly. Because if it does stay clean on the feet, it's all Xiaonan. So the only way that Tabitha Ricci does strike with her is by making it ugly like she did against Angela Hill, which I see Xiaonan kind of just, working through that game plan. So I'm going to pick Yan to win this fight. I do think it can be close if Tabitha Ricci does blitz in quite a bit, though. But yeah, I think that, the clear path here to victory is for Yan. Okay, now in our main event, we have Deiveson Figueiredo versus Petr Yan. I think this is a great main event fight. I do like both these fighters quite a bit. I think it's going to be really hard to actually break this fight down. One, I'll tell you right off the bat, I do not agree with the line of this fight. I think that anyone in this matchup being close to a minus 300 favorite just makes absolutely no sense. This fight's going to be a lot closer than what the books make it seem. I will tell you that off the rip. Now, I don't think you play really money on this fight anyway, unless you maybe take some sort of prop or some sort of point spread. It's probably the only way you really play this fight. But the interesting thing here is that I feel like Deiveson Figueiredo has looked really good since he's moved up from flyweight to bantamweight. And then on the Petr Yan side, Petr Yan was the champ, has had, started losing to some contenders, but they have been just really good, the people he's lost to. He's lost to Merab, who's also the champ. He lost to Sean O'Malley, who was a champ, in a fight that, a lot of people say that, that might have been a robbery. Petr Yan did win that fight. So he's had some interesting losses. And then it was that second fight to Aljo where he really just looked a lot different, where he did lose a split decision to Aljamain Sterling. In his first fight that he lost to Aljo with the illegal knee, he was absolutely trashing Aljamain in that fight. So it is interesting to break this fight down. I'm really concerned with one thing for Figueiredo, and it's the fact that it's a 5-round fight. I think that really suits Petr Yan a lot more than Figueiredo. We've seen Figueiredo slow down, but he is now at 135, so maybe some of those gas tank issues are kind of better now that he's a bit more hydrated in these fights than he would be at 125. The other thing is that Petr Yan is a slow starter. Petr Yan definitely just feels out his opponent, gets a bunch of reads in round one quite often. So we see Petr Yan dropping round one really often in his fights. And so once again, it just kind of favors a fight that looks like Figueiredo's winning at the start, but can he maintain that momentum, or does Petr Yan take over? Which is really realistically how this fight will probably go. It's just, will Petr Yan take over too late? Will Figueiredo get 3 rounds? Will he get 2 rounds? Will Petr Yan get 3 rounds? That's going to be interesting. So, I mean, I'm pretty confused on this fight. I'm going to pick Figueiredo to win just because I feel like Petr Yan's already climbed the mountain. He's kind of just hanging around in there now. I don't know how much he's kind of like, locked in to then go beat these people that he's lost to, like a Merab at the top of the division, like an Umar that's also there. While on the other hand, there's Deiveson Figueiredo, who's looking really good since he's moved into this weight class. We do know he's going to be the better grappler in this matchup. When it comes to striking, Petr Yan's going to be like a way better boxer, obviously, but Figueiredo will have some power. He does have good hooks. He does have good kicks as well. So, I mean, it's going to be a super interesting fight. I think it's a great, great matchup. I'm going to lean Figueiredo just because I kind of have a feeling that Figueiredo is just surging through the division right now versus a Petr Yan who's kind of already been at the top, like I said. But I think it's a super close fight. I don't think you lay any money down here. I do understand Petr Yan being the favorite, but I don't understand him being a 3-1 favorite. And yeah, if you're on the Figueiredo side and he does start winning early, I would still be cautious because I think that's how this fight would play out. Figueiredo winning early and then Petr Yan taking over later on. So it's going to really come down to that round 3, I think. That's going to be kind of the momentum shifting round. And if Figueiredo's still winning around that like part of the fight, it's going to look really good. But if that's when Petr Yan starts to take over, there might be a really, really good live bet. And you know what? If I think that that's what's going to happen, I'm probably going to live bet Petr Yan potentially, and I'll put it on our Instagram story. So keep an eye out for that. But for now, the pick's going to be Figueiredo. All right, guys, that concludes all the picks and predictions for UFC Macau this weekend. Definitely check out our premium if that's something you guys are looking into. We're up over 20 units in the last 8 weeks. Like I said, we were down for the first time in 8 weeks last weekend, and we were only down 0.06 units. So basically hit the break even, didn't really lose much, but we'll still call it a red week for transparency. And yeah, I mean, if you want to just do like unit level betting, our premium is great. It's $20 a month. You can check it out on kopicks.win. And aside from that, join our Discord. Discord is fully free. It's just a community of UFC people, that just fuck around. And if you have any bets you want to show, any fights you want to break down, hop up in there. You can ask people questions. A bunch of cool people in there. And then, follow us on Instagram. We're doing great on Instagram. Check out our Twitter and stuff like that. And yeah, good luck on everyone's bets this week. I'll see you guys next week.